Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the 7 Minutes Podcast. I am your host, Rollo Tomasi. I game and stuff, and I am double fisting. We've decided we're going to kick things off by telling you what we're drinking as we're recording. I am double fisting Bigelow Constant Comment, which is a black tea with some citrus notes.
Really fitting name for you, honestly.
She said, commenting constantly. And Drake's IPA from some local podunk city called San Leandro.
Excuse me. It's a jab.
Angela, it sounds like you want to go next.
That was a jab. That was a mean-spirited jab at Robert and I's hometown. Anyway, this is Angela. Welcome back. It was my idea to start things off nice and slow, nice and simple. Introducing you guys to what we're drinking. Mainly because in the previous recordings, I've tried to very carefully hide the sounds of me drinking anything, and I'm really just kind of tired of doing that. So,
gamers drink. Why hide it?
Yeah, yeah.
We're waiting to hear what's in the mug.
Oh man, I didn't even tell you. So I too am enjoying Bigelow tea. I'm doing mint. It's perfectly blended mountain tea and American mint.
I, Robert, meanwhile, am drinking a mug of green tea made lovingly by the notable
Rollo Tomasi.
Yes, the Rollo Tomasi. It comes from a small Japanese prefecture, I'm sure. Loose leaf. Very, very nice. Although it's not in a Japanese mug, so I'm just...
I think it's Thai, actually.
That actually... He is drinking some special tea brought back from Thailand by Zack, a.k.a. Rollo Tomasi's sister.
I think we should just be clear that most of the time when I make these ridiculous statements, I'm just lying. So, yeah. Green tea.
This tea was picked by M. Bison himself.
His big, gentle hands.
And aside from disclosures about what we're drinking and blowing my cover, we were going to kick things off by talking about what we've been playing since the last time we recorded. Robert, why don't you go first?
Yes. So, I am knee-deep in Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury.
Good choice.
So, I am of the opinion, after playing almost entirely through the game again, I'm at the very end.
You're talking about the base game, right?
Yeah, I have not finished Bowser's Fury yet. Maybe we'll discuss that in the next podcast. But 3D World, compared to Odyssey, I think Odyssey is a very good game. But as far as I'm concerned, especially after playing through 3D World now a second time, Odyssey is a step backwards for the series. 3D World is exactly the direction Mario should continue going in. Because I think the control scheme is probably the best of any Mario, and the structure of it is the best of any of the 3D Mario games. It's just incredibly smart how each level is designed, and the movement is just so perfect. Even just the addition of using a button to initiate making him run is such a smart way of taking you, if you've played the 2D Mario games and now you're transitioning to the 3D ones. If you play 2D Mario games, you're used to, if I want to make Mario run, I got to hold the button down. And now you go to this 3D version of it, and it's this just perfect mix of 2D and 3D into what I feel should be the direction moving forward.
I mean, you've probably heard people talk about, I don't know if this is the exact wording that commonly gets used, but obstacle course Mario versus playground Mario, right? Mario 64, Sunshine, Odyssey. The idea is more that you're just going to end up in this area, and it's more self-directed. Obviously, there's objectives that have been put in the game, but you watch videos of people playing these games, and a lot of it is kind of just doing tricks, expressive play, right? Rather than an obstacle course that you pass or fail. And I definitely prefer the obstacle course approach myself, but I'm also I don't know. Some people do the 64 Sunshine Odyssey approach. I don't.
I like both. I think maybe, this is just supposed to be what we're playing, but just briefly, I think it would be kind of cool if Mario, or if Nintendo for the next 3D Mario could figure out something maybe along the lines of what the last ukulele game did. And I'm totally forgetting the name of the last one, but it's the one that is 2D, but has a 3D overworld. Like maybe there's some way of having a larger overworld that's more of the playground stuff for those who like it. And then you can get into the more objective-based obstacle course stages, which is what 3D World is mostly comprised with. Because the exploration in Mario, I think, is kind of important. I mean, that's why I can't say I dislike Odyssey. Odyssey was fun, but especially because you had so much to explore. And like maybe finding a way to give you both of those at the same time could be a direction moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like exploration is fine, but I would really rather that it was just the obstacle course nonsense. But I'm interested to hear how you feel about the game after you finish Bowser's Fury, which does seem like it does gesture more towards at least that fusion or that split on the same cartridge, at least, right? Definitely interested to hear that. I think, we're probably going to do a Mario series episode at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the very least, I'll give you an update next time when discussing what I'm playing. Now, let's go on to Angie, what she's been playing lately.
So I've been playing Days Gone. And this isn't the first time I've played Days Gone. I actually play tested this game at Sony's headquarters. As we mentioned before, we're located in the Bay Area. And so Sony's headquarters in San Mateo, I've actually play tested a number of games there, and Days Gone was one of them. Didn't know in advance. You never know in advance what game you're going to be playing. I'm not good with horror games. There are some that I love and I've played, like Resident Evil 4. But when we were told that we were playtesting Days Gone, I almost told them, because it was 6 days long, I almost told them, I don't think I'm going to be able to get through 6 days of this. Like, this is terrifying. I signed an NDA. I cannot talk to you at all, unfortunately, about anything that I experienced there, but I can at least say I did not finish the story, didn't finish the game in the 6 days I was there. So just on a whim, I don't know why, I just decided to pick it up. I was at Target recently, saw it, and I was like, oh, what the hell, I'll give it a try again. So that's what I've been doing. It's not a bad game, at least the actual combat and gameplay is fun, but there's just, I don't know, I'm not going to get too much into it right now, but there's a lot of kind of just odd kind of storytelling elements and just some strange mechanics in the game. I don't know, it's all right. It's as much fun to kind of make fun of as it is to play, but that's what I'm doing now.
I hope it ends up being worth it for you. Because you did get most of the way through, right?
I did get most of the way through when I playtested it, yeah.
So I hope it's worth playing a second time just to see that ending.
Yeah, and also seeing how...
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know that's not the only thing you played in the last week. I think you just beat Mario 3 for the first time, right?
Oh, right. I forgot, yeah.
Which version?
The All-Stars version. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually never beat Mario 3. I have gotten all the way to World 8, but never actually beat it. Finally beat it.
So Bowser and the brick breaking.
Yep. It was really fun. I mean, I've always loved Mario 3, but actually applying myself and forcing myself to beat the game, that was fun.
It was cool to see. It was like one of those, you'll sometimes hit a wall in a game. You'll try a boss over and over. You'll try something over and over, and you get frustrated, you walk away, you take a break, you come back, you get it in the first try. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened with you and Bowser.
That is.
For me, I have been playing... I tried an indie game that is on Switch. I think it's also on PC, called Blue Fire, which mixes some kind of Zelda-style space design, like puzzle design, with more 3D platformer movement. There's a little bit of, I want to say Dark Souls or Hollow Knight aesthetic or feel mixed in there too. I feel like it just really needs more polish. There's some obvious stuff like typos in the game, but for some reason the movement, things like that just don't feel quite right. So I haven't really been sticking with it. Instead I've been playing Final Fantasy VI, Brave New World, which is a ROM hack of the Super Nintendo game Final Fantasy VI that, look...
Zack and his ROM hacks.
Yeah, well... it's a wide world of wonderful games out there, and sometimes those wonderful games are made by a couple of dudes with a dedicated community of beta testers and feedback givers on the forum. Anyhow, look, there's a lot to love about the retail version of Final Fantasy VI, but if you find it a little easy or you think its mechanics aren't really explored in depth, it's definitely more challenging. This is the second time I've played Brave New World. It's more challenging, but it's also much more engaging and gratifying for that reason. So about halfway through it, it's good. I'm sorry to make both of you here. This is not the first ROM hack I've played. This is like the third Final Fantasy ROM hack I've played in a row. And they've all been winners. Anyhow.
He loves the little quality of life tweaks that they bring.
Not just that. Sometimes it's like bigger design considerations too. Like it's kind of impressive how much Brave New World changes in terms of like progression and character customization and things like that. Sometimes it is quality of life tweaks. Anyhow, we are gathered here today to take on the topic of gaming, ... on a budget. And there are different places we could start, but I think what makes sense is, we've all had the experience of being a child. And, part of being a child means you tend to have a lot of free time compared to being an adult for playing games, but you also have a fairly empty purse to the extent you have a purse at all.
Mm-hmm.
And as a child, I think we probably all have the experience of just kind of being at the whim of whatever cadence of holidays and birthdays come by to build our collections.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, whether it's an allowance or a summer job or whatever, we start...
Allowance.
Look,
Can't speak to that.
In some households, that is a thing.
No, I know. I'm very familiar with the fact that in many households it's a thing. In our household, we had a test run that lasted for exactly a week. And that was it. We were told we're going to start giving you an allowance. And the end of one week went by. We got whatever the payment was. And that was it. We weren't told you're not getting it anymore. Or anything, it just ended.
It was never brought up again.
was never brought up. And we weren't going to ask.
Ironically, our parents just last night were talking about vending machines and soda fountains from when they were kids. And our mom was saying how a quarter was, what was the word she used? It was either scarce or like an anomaly when she was a child. And then our dad was laughing, saying how he got 75 cents every week.
75 cents?
Wow.
They didn't even give us 75 cents. I don't know what that one and only allowance payment was. It was probably like $5 or something like that.
I did have an allowance. I don't remember when I started getting allowance. I do remember spending a lot of it on Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons related things.
I remember as a kid, there was always this unspoken sense that if we went out and we got anything, if it approached $20, you weren't getting it. And if it was under 20, there was wiggle room. And that has, like, even now as an adult, when I go buy things, $20 is this sort of point where I start thinking, well, that's expensive.
I remember thinking of things in terms of, like, when I was in high school, I was kind of a late bloomer in this regard, but I think I was a junior in high school and got into music and started thinking about money and the cost of things in terms of, like, how many CDs worth of money is this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I had an allowance, and definitely I'm sure I got one or more games on that allowance, but the first time I remember having to do something in order to acquire money so that I could purchase something that I would not otherwise be able to get. And this was, I was doing summer yard work and things around the house to supplement the allowance I was getting. But I wanted to save up to get actually Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy III, same game I'm now playing a ROM hack of. And that was in the Super Nintendo era. So I don't know how well you remember this. That, there are obviously discussions now, bleeding, wailing, strong opinions about the price of games one way or another. Like, are consumers ready to pay $70 for a game or like whatever, microtransactions, blah blah blah. But back in the Super Nintendo era, the prices of games were all over the place. If I'm recalling correctly, Final Fantasy VI, aka Final Fantasy III, was in the 70s. I think I had to save up something like $75 to get it.
Wow.
And, it's like back in the Super Nintendo day, like games were more variable in their cost depending on like how many megabits the game was or what kind of special chips there were, or sometimes other things that went into that too. It wasn't like everything is $60.
Yeah, I think Star Fox might have been expensive when it came out. Yeah, I mean, even now, Nintendo has kind of brought back that issue with the cartridges because of Switch. You have a lot of games where they don't put the full game on the cartridge because it would be too much to create the cartridge with that much memory in it. I mean, they were calling it the Switch tax for a little while, too, where certain games heading to their cartridges cost more than the disc variant on other platforms.
Yeah, I don't think that's a media cost. I think that's that's publishers recognizing correctly that the Switch player base is more willing to spend money on these things.
Well, they claim it's by necessity.
Well, I'm sure that they're going to claim that. They're not going to come out and say, like, y'all have proven that we can hose you for an extra $10, right?
Well, I actually was wondering, though, because I remember, think about Nintendo 64 and how Square was furious because they weren't going to go disc-based for the games, and they attributed part of their displeasure with being cost because the cartridges were more to manufacture. So I don't know if it's still that case where the cartridges are just more expensive to make.
Like, it's even true for digital Switch games. They're just expensive compared to what they cost on other platforms.
Well, that's its own discussion. Because
that's the thing. That's the Switch tax people talk about, is like Switch games are just more. There's the separate issue, which is also frustrating, of like not having the entire game on the cartridge.
I hate that in particular. I find that incredibly annoying. Like, in that case, it's like, if you want to charge me a little more, then do it.
Yes.
Because I don't feel like filling my memory card. I have a 512 gig memory card, and I'm so out of space, it's insane. I have a particularly large collection.
Yes.
But, even still, it's like, I have half of a terabyte, and it's not enough for everything. And then when you get, like, Doom, like the second Doom for Switch, I forget, it's like 16 gigs or something ridiculous just for the one game. And Resident Evil Revelations 2, I think, is still one of the biggest installs. It's like 25 or 28 gigs. It's something it's just monumentally large.
It probably has to do with the way it was developed as episodic, so there's probably like a lot of redundancy in like the file structure for the game.
We are moving a little away from.
Yeah, that's fair. So I guess what I was trying to tee up by mentioning that I bought Final Fantasy VI with allowance money was to ask if either of you remember what the first game you bought was that you actually had to like save up for or work for.
I am sure that there are other games besides this one, but for whatever reason in my brain stands out going to Toys R Us, having money for a game that I was able to pick and buy, and I wanted NBA Jam. I don't remember which one, but I remember buying NBA Jam at Toys R Us. I probably played it at like an arcade or something and wanted, the game at home.
I completely forgot that we had that.
Yeah. So I think that's the first game I remember buying with, little kid money. Because I think there is a key point of demarcation in this conversation. So there's going to be the kid part of not having money and playing games, and then transitioning to adulthood and not really having money and buying games. Because I think they're a little different, but I think we'll just see how it goes as this discussion evolves. But Kid Bert remembers NBA Jam at Toys R Us.
I don't remember at all having money and buying my own games as a kid. If I had money, I was probably spending it on Barbies.
Or Hello Kitty.
Or Hello Kitty. Like that's what I was spending it on. Because, I had, we've discussed in previous podcasts, I have a lot of memories attached to playing my Game Boy Color, because RIP my Game Boy, and my handhelds. But all those games that I can think of, they were all gifts. Sorry, gifts. I cannot remember a single game that I, as a child, saved up money for and bought. So yeah, I guess I'm going to have to wait till we reach the adulthood section to talk about that.
Well, I think our situation was, I don't know how unique it is for people, but in our family, I think we might have mentioned this in a previous podcast, but we didn't have a home console in our house. We had the Game Boys at home. My grandmother and aunt lived together, and my aunt helped take care of my grandma. And at Grandma's house, where we would go constantly, we were there at least every week, sometimes more during the week, that's where the home console would be. And our Aunt Linda always had every Nintendo system. And I think the first 3 consoles all came to her through happenstance, kind of. One belonged to one of our uncles, and he let her have it. That was the NES. Her boss at a job, for whatever reason, she got the Super Nintendo from him. And then the Nintendo 64, I think, was another one that came from the same uncle for whatever reason. And then after that, Linda started just kind of buying everything from the GameCube forward. But basically, every Nintendo generation we experienced at Grandma's house. Mm-hmm. And there were games we'd asked for. Like, I remember wanting Ocarina of Time. And there's various games I remember saying I wanted, and Angie too. But Linda would randomly pick stuff. And that's what I remember my childhood being. Linda would go off of what we would watch in cartoons and what she remembered as cartoons herself growing up. So we have Mario and Donkey Kong, but stuff like Zelda we didn't get because Linda didn't know what Zelda was. But she definitely knew what Looney Tunes were. Like on the Super Nintendo, we have a ton of those Looney Tunes games.
And Home Alone. I played the Home Alone game a lot.
Were there many Looney Tunes games? I remember, like, on Genesis, there was, like, a Tasmanian Devil game.
So there was, I'm going to get the name, I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but there was Duck Dodgers, there was Tiny Toons, of course,
Yeah.
There was the Bugs Bunny game, there was the Tasmanian Devil game, there was the Roadrunner game.
But the Bugs Bunny one, was that, like, Crazy Castles or whatever, where you were, like, going up and down stairs and in and out of doors, or was it something else?
I can't remember. In fact, I can't even remember the last time I popped that particular game in, but there were quite a few. There's ones that we don't even have. And I think part of it, too, was I think Linda... Well, see, Linda would get them from everywhere. She'd get them from KB's, she'd get them from Toys R Us, probably Target here and there. Although when we were kids in the 90s, I don't remember Target being as big of a thing as it has become now. Like, everybody goes to Target now. Target was like a rare expedition. But those two places, KB's and Toys R Us, and I think Linda would also find stuff at Suncoast sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Taz game came from Suncoast.
And luckily, too, because you were so into the Ninja Turtles, there, obviously we had, like, Turtles in Time, but then we also got Gems, like Tournament Fighters. And I don't think that we would have had that game had she not recognized one of the I think Leo's on the cover.
Yep, Leo's on the cover.
Did you ever...
Well, I was just going to say, I wonder what made her pick Mega Man X.
See, that might have been one I asked her if she could find. Because, like, Nintendo Power was invaluable growing up.
Yeah.
So, my grandma and aunt, that was another thing. They would get magazines and stuff for us. And there was the infamous incident of my grandma ordering what she thought was a Ninja Turtle magazine, but instead it was Turtle Magazine. I think that's just the name of it, was Turtle, and it had this little cartoon turtle character. She was so disappointed when it came in the mail. She looked and she was like, "Oh, mijo, I thought this was going to be Ninja Turtles. I'm sorry," but I remember reading it anyway. But
yeah,
Linda
turtle is a turtle.
Yeah, that's right. Linda got us Nintendo Power. And Nintendo Power was super cool because not only did it give you codes and, advice to get through stages and different games, I remember Nintendo Power would highlight different games that I wouldn't have known existed otherwise. Now, Mega Man X, that's an obvious one, but basically what I'm saying is I know I'd spot stuff in Nintendo Power and would show Linda. And just be like, "Oh, this looks cool."
Cool Spot. She had to have got
Yeah,
cool
she
spot.
just got that one on her
She
own.
probably was just like, "Oh, how cool. It's the 7-Up spot."
Yeah, so...
He's a 7-Up spot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make sure I had that right.
He's a cool spot.
He is a cool spot, and that's a fun game. He's got a little bit of
Are you trying to get into an argument about the merits of Cool Spot?
Yeah, Zach hates Cool Spot for no reason.
It's just, I don't find those Virgin games very good.
Look, we're just gonna move past your hate.
Did either of you ever...
Remember Bubsy?
Yes.
I wonder what made her pick. She probably just thought the cat was cute.
Sometimes I think sales might have factored
That's
it.
true.
Like something was cheap and she's
probably
like, "Yeah."
"Oh, they'll have fun with that."
Yeah.
Did either of you... Because I played a fair number of these games too, but for me, the conduit was like Blockbuster or another like local video rental place. We had a local place called Video Madness.
We rarely rented,
Mhm.
but I do remember every
Mhm.
once in a blue moon we'd rent a game from Blockbuster. Like we
Yeah.
got, it might have been Terminator versus RoboCop we rented. I remember some robot game we rented that wasn't like that great, but we played it for a weekend or whatever.
Well, we also had the benefit of Robert's interest in Marvel, because that's how we got Marvel Superheroes in War of the Gems. Also one of my all-time favorite games.
Yeah, I hate that they're now the Infinity Stones. They're the Infinity Gems.
Yes.
And all you MCU fans can go straight to hell.
Obviously, it's fine for them to be stones or gems.
Ridiculous.
Like, of all the pedantic
gem sounds
things to
better.
be particular about, it's like, it's just not.
Yeah, a true
Worth
fan
it.
finds that offensive. Thank you.
Dude, I have the trade paperback of Infinity Gauntlet.
You do? Do you still want it?
Yeah. I also have the original print run of Infinity War and Infinity Crusade.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I want to see it.
Well, come down to Torrance sometime.
Why don't you
Alright,
have
well-
them here now?
Why would I have them with me here now?
What if you wanted to read them?
But I don't.
What if your
Then what the heck are
fiance
you-
wants to
Yeah,
read them?
well, yeah, what about
Well,
me?
then she can come visit my folks down in Torrance. Anyhow.
But we live here in Oakland.
Yeah. I know.
The Marvel games were fun back in the day. Now, keep in mind, growing up, you'll hear this repeatedly, I'm sure, but we were the Nintendo kids.
Mm-hmm.
But other consoles had cool games, and I've played some as an adult now. But for us, these were all the Super Nintendo Marvel games. So you had War of the Gems, but then you had Mutant Apocalypse for
Mhm.
X-Men, and then just those kind of rando Marvel hero games like that Incredible Hulk game, which I can't remember who developed it, but
Maximum Carnage.
Maximum Carnage is super
Separation
fun.
Did I
Anxiety.
ever play I think it was LJN, the X-Men game for the NES?
no. Oh, well, I've played it since as an adult and was really confused and didn't really get too deep into
It
it.
doesn't really capture the feeling of the X-Men. But we're kind of drifting into
Oh yeah, sorry.
like,
We were
just games that we had
Yeah,
as kids.
we made one thing to take away from all of that. The second large tangent of the night, and we're about only a half an hour in. Is that Robert kind of touched on this. A lot of these games were likely chosen because they were cheap. We're a strictly middle class family, and our family doesn't have a ton of money. And some of the games that we got growing up were because they were more accessible, and that didn't mean that they weren't fun. A lot of them were really, really fun.
Some of them were Bubsy.
You can leave Bubsy alone.
I like Bubsy as a kid.
Yeah.
I think
Even as a kid, I could tell, like, oh, this is a stinker.
Well, I think that one interesting aspect of not having money to buy games and being a kid is that you immerse yourself in a game more as a child
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
because you don't have a bunch of options. Even now it might be different because of like the nature of free-to-play games and all that kind of thing. But like as a kid growing up, for us, the 90s, you didn't have a ton of options. It was whatever cartridges you had.
Mhm.
And if you wanted to play games, you were going to probably just stick with and play those handful of games that you had. Now,
Yeah.
our collection grew over time because we never got rid of anything.
Mhm.
Like, we still have all those consoles in their boxes to this day.
Mhm.
But, like, Ocarina of Time, that was a little different. That was, like, life-changing. But
Mhm.
Harvest Moon 64, I remember getting that game, and I can't remember if we got it during summer vacation, but I just remember it was either summer vacation or winter break, going to Grandma's house and playing that game from like 7 in the morning until 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night,
Mhm.
and just taking like breaks to eat.
Mhm.
And I've been playing 3D World, and I've been able to play that for hours at a time. But I have some difficulty now being able to just sit for really extended periods of time and just playing. And part of that might just be my different adult brain or whatever. But just as a kid, it's like, this is what you've got to play, and you're going to play the hell out of it.
Yeah, I
do
definitely
not.
don't have that problem. I put in I don't know how many 8-hour, 10-hour Sundays into Animal Crossing, which is why I have 1,065 hours put into that game.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I don't have that problem either. If we want to call it a problem, because it's not like being able to
Yeah.
play a video game for 8 hours at a time.
It's really a
It's
problem.
like- but I had the same experience when I was playing, Breath of the Wild or Witcher 3, like some games that I really get into. Final Fantasy 14 is a big one, where
Mhm.
like when I'm into that game, it can be pretty consuming. so that like the kind of getting lost in something for hours aspect is something that for me hasn't really changed as I've gotten older. But I do think, like obviously having a smaller library of games makes you take another look at those games. Whereas this is something that's actually changed for me moving into I started college in 98, which was just the right time for the dorms had fast Ethernet in a way that was novel. And it was timed perfectly for the rise of, Napster and like the initial rush of file sharing. And it also came shortly after the rise of Nesticle, Genesis, ZSNES, which were like the first kind of like super popular NES, Genesis, and Super Nintendo emulators. And that meant that I had just like a glut of games that I'd either never gotten a chance to play. Like I was never able to find a copy of Ogre Battle when I was a kid. My friend Scott found out about Ogre Battle because he rented it and then tried to find it for sale and couldn't. So he ended up just quote unquote losing it and then paying a fee to Blockbuster, and that's how he got his copy of Ogre Battle. I didn't have that option as a result. So I didn't have Ogre Battle. I didn't really get to play it until I was away at college and had emulators that I was experimenting with. But I really noticed as a result of having unfettered access to so many games that it did change the way I was feeling about them. It's much easier to play a game for 5 minutes and be like, nah, it doesn't grab me, and just never look at it again.
Yeah.
And in some cases, honestly, that's what a game deserves. I spent a lot more time than that with Bubsy and Claude Encounters of the Third Kind, or whatever it's called. And like, I don't think Bubsy deserved any of the time that I spent. No offense to you and the wonderful times you apparently had with Bubsy, but I did not like it. I rented that game and I was like, well, that was a waste of a rental. But still, like, I gave that game more of a chance. Or when, I don't know, sometimes they're gems, right? Like, I do not have either of your enthusiasm for TMNT Tournament Fighters, but I did rent it back in the day and played through it with different characters and got a lot of enjoyment out of it that I just would never have done if my introduction to it had been a ROM and I'd played 5 minutes of it and been like, well, this doesn't feel like Street Fighter. So I think to some extent, like, having choice, to put it another way, I think in order to get the most out of a game, you have to commit to it.
Yeah.
And it is easier to commit to it when you are pre-committed with, I have spent $60 on this. And if I don't get anything out of it, then I'm just down $60. So I should really make a go of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to kind of get into that headspace again with games as I play them, of not allowing myself to just kind of pass on something because it doesn't feel right. So, for example, when I finally got a PSP, that was my first Sony system, and I went nuts going through PSN and downloading PlayStation 1 games. And one of the games I picked up was the first Tomb Raider. And man, I could not figure out the controls. They felt so strange to me, and I remember playing maybe 10 minutes and being like, I'm done. And maybe 3 or 4 months ago, like when the pandemic was kind of in its full swing, I fired up Tomb Raider again, and I was like, I'm going to try to actually play it. And I think some people have trouble with this, but like, even though I never played it growing up, I like playing these older games, and you always hear the talk about like, oh, it feels outdated now, or it's archaic. And I'm like, look, there were good games and there were bad games back in the day on all of these consoles. Tomb Raider is considered one of the good games. So I will get myself into that headspace of like, stop thinking about what Tomb Raider of, now feels like, and just play this for what it is. And that game's actually really fun. I'm a little stuck right now because I can't figure out where to go. But
where are you?
I'm in those winding. It's this cave network where there's water shooting through the rocks, and the water kind of carries you back to the opening of this kind of cave or whatever. I keep getting stuck there.
Is it still in the first like the South American zone?
It has to be, yeah. I didn't get like super far because some of that platforming's tricky, but
It is.
But it reminded me of being a kid again as I was sitting there playing Tomb Raider, because I was like absorbed in it and making myself learn how it controlled, and it's just like being a kid with like a Super Nintendo game.
Yeah, some of this is games are designed differently now. Like the philosophy is much more to cater to the player's existing expectations. And back then, and Tomb Raider is a good example of this, of like you really had to understand what Tomb Raider wanted of you and then do that.
For me, I am extremely picky about everything in my life. So, my first job was out of high school. I didn't work during high school, but as soon as I graduated and started college, I got my first job. And so that was my first taste of money and freedom. And so because I'm so picky with games, my game library is, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of games, but I've kind of continued the pattern of our childhood where, we have this curated selection of games on our older consoles. And it's the same for, the consoles that I now own as an adult. I have this very curated selection. If something does not grab me in a trailer or doesn't look good, in a magazine or online or whatever, I'm not going to play it. And you can criticize me for that. That is fine. But I think have more of this mindset of like, I have this game and I'm going to sit with it and I'm going to play it for hours. I'm going to put a lot of time into it. And so even though that means that I've experienced fewer games than Zack and Robert, I feel like I'm very fulfilled with the library that I have because pretty much every one of those games I really love.
You feel that's a lesson you took forward from, I guess, being a kid and having limited selection and then being on a limited budget and then continuing on in that way?
I think it is. I do think that growing up with, a select number of games, in part because our parents didn't want us spoiled, in part because nobody had, super deep pockets, that carried over into my adulthood. But then also, I'm so picky about everything. Mm-hmm. But when I first had money and my first job, I was working at GameStop and I was there for 5 years, and I would get excited because we would, if you have worked or work at GameStop, we would get shipments of product every day, every morning, multiple boxes. And some of those boxes would have used games. And so I'd get excited because I was curious. It was kind of a treasure trove. You, this isn't some kind of secret, but you, the employee, you kind of get first dibs. You're looking at what's in the box and you might set something aside so you can buy it come payday. And I would find either rare games for like the DS, sometimes the Wii, or just games that seemed interesting. Where I was like, let me learn more about this. And,
I got so many PlayStation 3 controllers because she worked at GameStop. I would get these texts and calls from her saying, hey, we have such and such color that came in. Do you want it? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. So I probably have maybe 10 to 15 different DualShock 3s of all sorts of colors because of her period of working at GameStop.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that kind of related to this, I'm big on, gaming collectibles, figurines and stuff like that. And I think this was the very first genuinely expensive thing I ever bought myself. It wasn't a game or a console. It was a couple of Figma action figures. There was Skyward Sword Link and Samus. And in retrospect, they're not super, super pricey. They're not like these like first 4 figure statues or anything like that. But on a GameStop salary, working part-time in college, it was a lot of money. And it was kind of an irresponsible purchase with all the other things I had to pay for. But and so, like I said, even though it's not games, I have a lot of emotional attachment to those 2 figures because you come to appreciate where you've come from and where you wind up, and not having a lot of money at the time and looking at those now just kind of makes me think of where I started and where I am now in life.
Well, I was going to say, I think the fascinating thing about this discussion is that for some people, there's never been a struggle to pay for games.
Right.
There's a lot of people who grow up and like their parents will buy them whatever game.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, whatever console comes out, they get.
A lot of customers like that.
Yeah, and for me, like, the 2 of us have been talking about how we didn't have unlimited resources, but I remember my first interaction with Nintendo Joe, which is the site I now run. I remember just commenting on an article and had said something about how cost of games can be prohibitive, and that for a lot of people it prevents them from being able to play. And man, I had this kind of back and forth with the writer of the article. I wish I could remember what the exchange was, but it was not very nice. But I was very, very critical of the fact that they were being flippant about how much games cost and how it's not cheap and it's not easy for everybody to play. And like, not to sound like a GameStop shill, but as much as I don't think it's cool when you get something like they're going to give you 16 cents for something, I do think that GameStop is nice because you get the chance to spend $2 on a game. And, you know, I've worked at a GameStop more than once, and, you know, there are customers who come in who are a little, you know, special needs, and they get joy out of playing games, and they get joy out of being able to come in with $5 in their pocket that their, you know, guardian or parent gave them, and they go and buy those games. There's this one guy who stands out in my brain so much. He collects all of the sports games. Don't really know why. That brings him joy. And he will very seriously come in and say, do you have NBA 2K15? You know, and it's like years old. That kind of plays into my appreciation for GameStop. They might not be the best, but for budget-minded people, it's nice to have that option. I mean, gaming...
Do they still do that thing where you can like buy a used game, which they have the temerity to call pre-owned, and then like return it within like a week or
7
yeah,
days.
Yep, you can still take it back.
Which is actually like a big thing, because like part of I remember like being a kid, like obviously we had like video rental places back in the day, but you know, the risk of spending money on a new game and not knowing if it's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, GameStop they went from calling games used to pre-owned in the years that I was there. I was there from 2009 to 2014. And it was just because it sounded better. Instead of saying, oh yeah, I got this used, I got it pre-owned, which was, you know, eye-roll inducing. But yeah, I mean, believe me, GameStop has problems, and Lord knows I got screwed over by them a lot when I worked there. I mean, making $9 an hour. My first raise was 9 cents. I'll never forget that. But GameStop has a lot of positives, and to Robert's point, you know, we had a lot of regulars who they did not have a lot of money, and especially, you know, the particular demographic of our store and where we were located, they were not affluent. And we had one guy sticks out in my mind. He was an older gentleman. He was a grandpa. He was a cool grandpa, though. He was like an old rocker, former rocker, and he would come in and he was always buying PS2 games, the used PS2 games that we had, and by that point they were dirt cheap because they were no longer modern, and you know, PS3 was out, and then the PS4 came out, but he was getting them for his grandkids, and he would basically have like a $20 bill, and he'd keep himself to that, and you know, find whatever games he could for his grandkids. And I felt bad for him because I knew he was working on a budget and he didn't have a lot, but at the same time, his grandkids were happy. He was happy to get him these games. And I knew I shouldn't feel too bad for someone who was just happy to provide these games for his grandkids. But yeah, I mean, GameStop provided a lot of options for those of us that didn't have a lot of money.
And depending on how you do it, it can be a pretty cheap hobby. Like if you compare like spending, if gaming is your leisure activity versus like going to the movies is your leisure activity, going to the movies is definitely going to cost more. If you think about like the cost of the ticket, plus the cost of like the popcorn and all the stuff that goes along with that.
And all you're left with is your memory at the end.
You know, or I'm trying to think even of like, you know, I used to do rock climbing at the gym, and aside from the equipment cost of like buying the specialized shoes and so forth, membership to a climbing gym is, I don't remember for sure, but I think it's in like the ballpark of like $100 a month. Or the alternative is you just drive out to somewhere that actually has boulders and stuff that you can climb, right? So like there is an amount of expense that's baked into having these hobbies. And you know, for games, like even the stories you're telling about the kid who's collecting 2015 sports games, obviously that's a pretty affordable way to approach gaming, or playing, you know, it's like Fortnite and being fastidious about what kind of skin purchases you make is also going to be like a pretty cheap way to do things. But every family or every individual is going to have their limit. I remember growing up, I don't know if did either of you have friends that played video games and you would go over to their house and they had stuff that you didn't have, and you're like, oh my god. Because I had somebody move in on my block. His name was Landon. And he was only, if I remember correctly, he was only living there for a couple of years. But I remember going over, and he had a power glove. And I can't even remember what Landon looks like, because when I try to imagine Landon, all I can see is the It's So Bad guy from The Wizard. I didn't find it very effective as a controller, but I remember being like, whoa, I can't believe I get to see it. I get to use a power glove. And then at some point, much later, I ended up at somebody's house, and this wasn't even current technology at the time. I want to say, like, I think the GameCube was already out by this time. But I went over to somebody's house, and they had the home console Neo Geo. And I remember, like, I can still, like, remember, it's like that console cost $700, and the cartridges were like $200 each. And just, this is after I'd been exposed to, MAME and been able to play these games in different contexts, to say nothing of playing them in the arcade. But just, like, seeing this unit that I just understood to be this mark of a decadent childhood. Just being like, oh my god.
I was in a weird position as a kid, because by the time I got to middle school, which is when I would go over to a friend's house in like elementary school, but in elementary school I had friends that were boys and girls, but I was only going over to a couple of my girlfriends' houses to play Barbies. We weren't playing video games. And then by the time I got to middle school, and I had more, it was an equal, still had a mixture of male and female friends, but I was hanging out more with my guy friends, but never went to their houses. And then by the time I got to high school, went to my high school boyfriend's house, but he didn't really have anything that I didn't have. So no, I never really had the experience of anyone like having something that I didn't have that I envied.
Yeah, like, I was an extra weird kid. I never went to anybody's house. I probably didn't start going to friends' houses until, like, after high school.
Like college.
I do remember I had a friend, Tyler, in elementary school, and I remember being at his house, and he had a Nintendo 64, and it was the reverse feeling of I felt a little... I don't know. I felt bad because I had way more than he had. Mm-hmm. It was the opposite. But I do think he had a color of N64 controller I wanted. But like, in terms of like console envy, I do remember being in high school, and so we weren't allowed to have violent games. Yeah. I don't know if we talked about the infamous GoldenEye incident.
No.
But I had gotten GoldenEye one year. I think it was a Christmas purchase from my Aunt Linda. And just playing it, thinking it was awesome. And then my dad came in and was very upset, wanted to know.
Scandalized.
Yes, it's like this game where you're walking around as a gun. So that was banished. And so...
we didn't sell it or anything. It got put away.
Yeah, hidden in a corner that I may or may not have went to anyway. But, so I didn't get like Resident Evil stuff until later in life. But I remember being in high school... And this one guy named Justin, it's not my best friend Justin, it was a different Justin. He came in with the GameCube version of the Resident Evil remake. And it had 2 of those mini discs. And I remember just thinking that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I was like, wait, so there's 2 of the discs to play this game? How amazing is this game? That it's 2 discs.
Man, it's a shame you weren't playing on PC back in the days, because like the amount of like disc swapping you had to do to get a single game to load.
Oh, you know
what? Before I forget, you know what I bought the other day? I couldn't resist, and I have no means of playing it. I found SimCity 2000 at Half Price Books. It was $5. Had the box, the manual, and the floppy disks.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was like, oh, wow, I have nothing I can put a floppy into, but I'm sure there's some USB thing somewhere, so I'm going to get it.
Definitely buy a drive to connect.
One thing that I actually do remember, it was small, but in elementary school, my only experience with trading Pokemon was because I think it was actually my first crush ever. He had a link cable. And I didn't have a link cable. And I wanted a link cable.
Thought it was destiny, huh?
Yeah.
Linking together.
Yeah. I mean, really, quite frankly, I dodged a bullet by that never working out with that guy. But anyway, I just remember that is one instance of I wanted a link cable. And I never got one. I mean, then by the time I had been working at GameStop for a while and had amassed a little money, I mean, I ended up finding a lot of cool, rare finds that I could finally afford, but it was only a little at a time. It wasn't until my first career job out of college where I actually met.
Hello.
I saved up a little money and I bought a PS4 and Bloodborne, and I'm trying to think of the timeline because I had other consoles, but they were gifts. Like the Zelda Wii U was a college graduation gift from our Aunt Linda, and the Red Wii was also a gift from Linda. So I had consoles, but I had never purchased a home console myself. So my very first home console purchase was a PS4. It was not the most expensive thing I'd ever bought myself because at that point I think I had splurged on like a $500 pair of boots or something stupid by that point. But like, I was finally making real money and I was spending it irresponsibly. And the PS4 was my first home console purchase. And it just felt so, I don't know, like I'd entered a new world of adulthood and gaming. And I had the big new thing. And it was a cool feeling. But it was also like it was an interesting feeling because I was like, I never really thought that I'd be in the position to buy myself something like this.
I went a different route because I spent 1,000 years in college. So like I've gone from being poverty stricken, working as like a file clerk, to working for the IRS and having money, back to in school with no money. But I do remember graduating high school and starting to work as a file clerk and then as a tutor and having enough money to buy games here and there. And that's when I started experimenting with different Game Boy Advance games. And then eventually the DS. Man, the DS, that was a real special time because I didn't have a lot of money, but the games that were coming out for it they just felt so unique because that touchscreen, I mean, we take it for granted now, like we all have touchscreens on our phones, but when it came out back whenever that was, the early 2000s, it felt so unique. And games like Cooking Mama, I mean, we kind of deride them a little bit now, but like it was just so fascinating. Like I'm grabbing vegetables and I'm chopping them.
If anyone derides Cooking Mama in my presence, get out.
Cooking Mama is not very good.
No, get out.
Because when I was on the couch tonight.
Yeah, Cooking Mama is great. I just wanted to make that point.
Like that, man, the DS years were formidable for me, not just because... Formative, forgive me. Man, I need a dictionary. I had a classmate named... Don't remember his name. What I do remember, I think it was Mitch or Mitchell or something, but he was playing, and I swear I think he was importing it. Ace Attorney. And I remember,
had to have been at the time.
Yeah, because it was not localized yet. But I remember thinking, what the hell's an Ace Attorney? And he's describing it to me, and I was like, yeah, okay.
Did he call it Ace Attorney? Or did he call it Gakuten Saiban?
I don't remember. But I just know that it was Phoenix Wright.
Yeah.
And when I finally played Phoenix Wright, man, that started something that has continued to this day. Because I know Phoenix Wright is essentially just like kind of a point-and-click adventure. But remember, I'm straight Nintendo up until college. So when I played Phoenix Wright, I was like, oh, I didn't know video games could be like this. It was the most clever damn thing I'd ever touched. And I went from the first case to the last in like probably a weekend. And after that, all I wanted were these weird, unique DS games. Like, I thought Hotel Dusk was super cool and Trace Memory. So that whole era was great, but I couldn't buy everything. Like, now I'm hyper aware of what's coming out and trying to pre-order things. Screw you, limited run games, because it's just constant right now with these games I got to keep track of and can't afford.
You don't have to keep track of them. You don't have to buy them.
Anyway. But the DS era, it was like looking for these new games that were coming out and trying them. And regretting trading in some of them.
It's no one's fault but yours if you can't afford a Steel Battalion controller. It's nobody's fault but yours if you can't afford a Neo Geo. You just have to think about what you can afford and work within your own budget. Anyway.
So that period was fascinating. But once I started to have periods where I had more money coming in and wasn't riddled with debt, it was kind of fun, the stuff that you could start branching out to buy. Like, there was a period where I was going on to eBay looking for stuff that I'd been reading about online. Like, oh, I didn't know that game existed, and ordering it. But we were discussing this the other day. I can't remember what my first grown-up purchase was for like a console. I vaguely feel like it might have been a DSi or something.
Mm-hmm.
But one purchase that stands out in my mind, I don't care what Zack says about it, because he's criticized it in the past, but it was the last time I worked at the IRS. Oh, I'm sorry. It was when my first stint with the IRS ended. It was a seasonal position. And I remember thinking, man, I love that job. It's over. And now I'm going to be broke for a little while. And so I decided I'm getting myself something special. And I went to the now gone Alameda Game Exchange, one of the greatest game stores ever. They had Earthbound, and it was $200. And this is before it was on the eShop anywhere. Oh my God. I spent $200 on that cartridge. It's in my collection to this day. No box.
So you lost your job because the season ended.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
You had the realization, I don't have income.
Yeah, that's right.
And your reaction to that is, better spend what I have.
Unemployment was on its way. That was my final splurge.
You don't deserve unemployment.
Oh, but man, that was great. There's another... This is kind of tied into not really having money. It was before Nintendo was doing their...
That is the opposite of gaming on a budget. I'm sorry.
Well. Anyway.
It's like budget smudget.
Anyway. Having a... It was the 3DS. It was the first 3DS model that came out.
Mm-hmm.
They started doing the virtual console on that and all the eShop games you could download.
Were you an ambassador?
I was an ambassador, thank you. I put the ass in ambassador. So I had all these games I downloaded, and this was early into the life cycle of 3DS. And it was just a mountain of games I downloaded, a bunch of the DLC for Theater Rhythm, and
oh my God.
I'm sitting in a Chinese restaurant near my house. I have my 3DS next to me on the seat. I get my big ass up, leave, and I'm about half a block away when I realize, oh God, where's my 3DS? I go back. Of course, somebody stole it. Angie was still working at GameStop, and she was on the hunt because mine had a little green-tipped stylus that I had put in it. She was like, if anybody trades in a 3DS with a green-tipped stylus, that's my brother's. She was like calling different stores. Mm-hmm. But that was before Nintendo did the dedicated accounts. Like, you didn't have a true, proper account. And so I replaced the 3DS, but I didn't have any of my games. And I called them and was like, Nintendo, mine was stolen. What do I do? And they were like, well, let's look at your purchase history, because they could see you on their end. And I had so much crap at that point. And this is before even what I have now, which is more than that. But they looked at how much I had, and they were like, oh. And I think they were like thinking to themselves, it's one of those guys. They're like, all right, this idiot spent so much money. We got to help him a little. So they said, we're going to give you the cumulative total of everything you ever spent as credit in the eShop. So it was great because I was able to rebuy everything and weed out the stuff I didn't like. Because I was like, oh, I didn't like that game, so I'm going to get this one instead.
Didn't they also, like, give you ambassador status, like...
Yeah, they had to do it again, basically, because I had gone through the process to get it, but they had to, like, kind of manually put it back on because it was starting fresh.
Right.
But still have all those games this day.
They transferred that status, essentially, from the one that was stolen to your new one.
Mm-hmm.
Without saying who I'm talking about, because you never know who's going to listen to a podcast. We have a friend, Angela and I know a guy who has made so many purchases on his 3DS in particular that he has sworn us to secrecy. Like, you cannot tell.
His significant other.
You cannot tell my SO. Never let this slip.
How many does he have?
Have
you ever looked through it?
Just like tab through the different pages.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't think at that point when I had my 3DS, I mean, I still have it, but at that point I don't even think I knew you could like have like multiple screens worth of things. You know, I also didn't know you could like shrink the icon size to fit more on his screen, and he had shrunk everything down to the minimum to fit in as many things as he can. It was just like tab, tab, just like swiping from one screen to the next. And I'm like, what are you doing?
You know, on my
what are you doing?
On my 3DS, the biggest size card you could put in there is I think 32 gigs, and I have so many icons on mine that it's reached the maximum. So even though I set up folders, so like I have it by console on my 3DS, I have multiple folders with multiple games in them. Each folder, well, not each folder is almost full, but there's so many icons that now if I download a game onto it, it'll say something like I've reached the maximum space for icons. Like I had to get rid of the specialty icons that you could get through the Arcade Badge app on the 3DS. I had to get rid of them because every time I download a game, it would disappear one of them. And I'd be like, well, where did the settings option go? Because it couldn't handle it.
That seems like like a sign from God that maybe...
It's a sign that Nintendo needs to be more understanding of the true collector.
No, it's a sign that the people who think of themselves as true collectors need to take a long, hard look in the mirror.
So anyway, we've strayed into decadence versus non-decadence.
Yeah.
So
seriously.
I think one thing I'd like to mention for this topic is if you are a collector, I'm not going to help you thrift, first of all. My sister will do this for clothing. She'll give advice to people. Go to hell. You ain't going near anything that I go near to find games.
Look, I'll be fair. I will be honest, too. There are some places I have not told people about. And I don't think that's selfish. I think everybody does that.
Well, then everybody shows up if you tell everybody. That's the problem.
Right. And so there are those places, whether you're talking about thrifting clothes or thrifting games, that you keep a little on the down low for yourself.
So I'm going to tell anybody listening too, don't go blabbing your own secrets. Because then it stops being cool. So anyway, so if you are a collector and you're getting your games wherever, one thing I like to look for now, because I still don't have a lot of money to spend on games, so this is still budget gaming. I like going and finding like $2 to $3 DS games that I'll see places now. And I will search them if I'm in the stores. Like one thing I'll do is just, if the box art catches my eye or the name, I'll search it. I'm drawn to certain publishers. So I've gotten a couple games in the not too distant past where they were developed by Hudson, that's the people who made Bomberman back in the day. If I see something Hudson developed, I'll usually give it a shot just because I'm curious, because I like Hudson, because I like Bomberman. So that's one thing you can do to expand your collection if you're looking for new stuff to play. For storage, so I don't watch these videos, probably also because I don't want to torture myself, but I know people like to see videos or photos of people's game collections. Like people have these crazy gaming rooms. Mm-hmm. I have certain stuff set up in my place, but I don't really have room for that kind of setup. But what I've done is get those cubicles that you can buy, little cubbies at like Target. I think even Walmart has them now. And they're like $20, $30 a pop. And you can get them in different configurations where it's like a 1x2 or a 2x2, 3x3. And setting those up and putting all your games in them is a great way to organize your games. So if you like to keep the boxes, if you like to keep everything neat, that's my method. And if you start to the point where I'm at, where there's just so many games, you can even double up the rows and they'll still fit inside the cubes. That's something that I like to do.
I feel like by the time you need to contemplate storage, you've already lost.
Lost what?
The goal to like stay on a budget.
Oh,
that's not necessarily true, because we're talking 30 plus years of collecting.
We are at this point. Like, I'm 30. Robert's 34. He'll be 35 in May. And yeah, this is an actual lifetime's worth of collecting, from the stuff.
But I've been getting games since '88.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you've also gotten rid of a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, see, because you're not a collector. You're not a collector.
Remember, everyone, he's anti-object.
Yeah, he's absolutely...
He is not anti-object. Do not listen to these smears of the great Rollo Tomasi.
Yeah, so it is different when you're a collector and you've been collecting that long.
I've actually had... I reached a point where I kind of stopped trading stuff to GameStop. There's stuff I traded I regret. I don't have the Zero games anymore for Game Boy Advance, but I might have had all 4 back in the day, and I traded them. But now I kind of look at all the stuff I have, and it's, there's stuff I've spent good money on now, but there's a lot of stuff that's in there that I just was buying in college and broke and or had as a kid. And it's kind of neat seeing it because it's sort of like a big capsule of just like my life and different periods of time, because so many of the games represent different memories for me. Like Peace Walker, I remember playing that on the way to Reno, and that entire trip, it's like a 4-hour drive from our house to get to Reno and then back. It's another 4 hours. I spent all this time playing and never beat the game. I got close to the end, but there was so much to do, and I always think of that trip.
I remember I have Chrono Trigger on the DS, and that was a really cool used find. And I had opened up a box of shipment working at GameStop. It was in the morning, and it was right there on the top. And I was familiar with Chrono Trigger and didn't play it growing up. And I think I texted Robert, and I just asked him, like, should I get this? And Robert seemed, because I was on the fence. It wasn't super expensive, but GameStop had priced it a little bit higher than most used DS games because it was rare. It was hard to come by, and it was also desirable because it's Chrono Trigger. But I was on the fence because I didn't have a whole lot of money to spend. So I was like, well, if I'm going to buy this, it should be worth it. And so I remember I texted Robert and just asked him, like, should I get this? I just remember Robert's text seemed very excited. He was like, you should get that.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger is still on people's shortlist for the best JRPG. And yeah. I don't know if the DS version is the best version to play, but it's a good port. Yeah. It's a good version. So yeah, you should get it.
Yeah, I did. It's in my collection now.
Talking about the thing about Peace Walker just now reminded me of something that I read from Greg Miller back when he used to work for IGN. And I'm not like the biggest Greg Miller fan, but he said something that stood out to me because I thought I was alone with this. But he described how for him, his memories of Super Mario World are entwined with a particular Weezer album. And that's kind of how my memories are with Ocarina of Time. So like it was either this last podcast or the one before it, I talked about playing Ocarina and being stuck where the Skulltulas are in the Deku Tree.
Proud of you.
Anyway, I couldn't get through there. And there were certain parts of Ocarina that I just found creepy and couldn't deal with by myself. So like the bottom of the well was another one that creeped me out. So to get through these sections of the game, I started playing music on my aunt's stereo system to kind of go over the music of the game to psych myself up. So like my memories of Ocarina are very tethered to Depeche Mode's Violator album. Mm-hmm. I would turn that on and play that along with the game. And I didn't know other people did similar things. And that's a really kind of fun, unique memory that you can develop for yourself.
I have a strong association between Archon 2 for the PC, which is like a chess Robotron combination. It's weird. And Sublime, like the 1996 album by Sublime. And also a strong association between Burnout Paradise and the Smiths.
I didn't, and I still don't play music while I play games. I prefer to just listen to the sound of the soundtrack, but I don't think I'll get in trouble with the Sony lawyers for saying this.
No.
When I tell you, I don't want to get sued by those people. But when I play tested Days Gone, I was so scared, and the sounds of like the freakers breathing and hearing them nearby and the screeches and all that, it was just, when you're sitting in a playtesting room for like 8 hours and you're scared of those types of games, it could be really stressful. So I would take off my headphones. So the opposite of you guys, when I think of that experience and I think of playtesting Days Gone, I think of silence and playing that game in silence, which is unusual. I don't typically do that. And actually, it was at a disadvantage because you should be listening for the sounds, the environmental sounds and clues that you're in danger. But I was like, no, I would rather be surprised by whatever happens to me on screen than have to listen to that. But it was also funny because when I took the headset off and it was way less stressful and I'm just listening to the sounds of life happening around me, it was funny hearing the other people reacting because it was predominantly guys, and the way that they expressed fear was really interesting. Some guys would just break out into like just streams of cussing. And it was just really funny because that's how they handled the fear. Or some dudes would just straight up yelp Or some guys they'd kind of scream and then they'd just start laughing because it was like they were just like, man, that really did scare the hell out of me. So opposite to like attaching a game to music, I think of Days Gone. I think of the playing in silence and then the laughing to myself, hearing people dealing with fear and reacting to fear in different ways.
That must have been fun for the people administering the playtest.
I'm sure.
Looking at everybody freaking out in their own ways.
They asked,
especially because the goal's to scare everybody.
of course.
Right? So.
Well, they asked me, because they ask you questions during those tests. They asked me, we noticed that you kept taking off your headset. Why did you keep doing that? Because I think I was the only one doing that. And I said, because I would not have been able to finish the playtest otherwise. It was scaring me so much hearing the sounds, I had to take it off. They thought that was really funny, but also they just seemed like that was like that's an interesting way to deal with fear.
Angela got angry at me actually because I had started playing Resident Evil 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stopped because I wasn't really enjoying it. I don't react that much to horror, and I don't like first-person games that much. So even though I like a lot of Resident Evil games, 7, I was like, I feel like it. Probably not going to go back to it. And Angela was angry because she was kind of into the vibe of the game, but also too frightened of it to play it herself. Yeah. So in losing the ability to see it over my shoulder, she lost the ability to see it at all.
I was like, that's it. I'm not playing this.
Well, returning to that idea of silence, this has probably been mentioned, but maybe not. But with the Game Boys, a lot of those games I played silently. Because as a kid, I deduced that if the noise was on, my parents would notice I was playing. And after a certain amount of time, they'd say, all right, you've played enough, time to turn it off. But if I turned the sound off, nobody noticed I was playing my Game Boy, and I could play for as long as I wanted. It was pure brilliance. And I remember being a kid, and Angie would be sitting with her Game Boy, and she'd turn the volume up. And I'd be sitting there kind of looking at her side eyes like, why are you turning the volume up? They're going to notice you're playing. If they notice you're playing, they're going to notice I'm playing. And then we're both not going to be able to play. What's the matter with you?
But it's more satisfying with the music.
I mean, when you're a child and you train yourself to play silently, you don't care.
But no, I mean, there are a number of like Game Boy soundtracks I really enjoyed.
Oh, me too. I mean, it's not like I played silent all the time. Like, if we were at Grandma's house, we'd still bring the Game Boys. So,
it was strategic when that was implemented.
To think about it with our parents around.
You need to think about quality over quantity, my good man.
Says the man who hasn't played Solatorobo, which apparently is worth quite a bit of money.
Solatorobo?
Yes.
Yeah, I bet.
I've been looking at like Game Boy games and DS games and stuff that are all super expensive. That's one of the like really expensive, especially because I have it complete.
Weird.
Oh, man.
You know, there's only one other person other than Robert that I know who got Solatorobo, and it was a regular.
The irony here is that this guy, so I worked at a comic shop back in the day. He went to my comic shop and her GameStop, and we both know who he was.
Yeah.
We both knew who he was.
I just thought it was funny, that coincidence. So we'd have these shared stories of this guy.
Power nerd is the best way to describe him.
Hyper power nerd. And I just remember he had come in, and I swear, unless I'm mistaken, I think that game came out at the same time as something big. I just remember, or maybe he just came to pick up his pre-order at a time when something big had come up. All I know is that everyone else was there for whatever it was. It wasn't Call of Duty, but it was something. And he comes up to the counter and he's like, "Hi, I'm here for my copy of Solatorobo." I'm just like, of course you are.
I swear I think Angie made fun of him, and I remember replying like, "Oh, I got that game too."
This is a
not, and I'm not speaking badly about Solatorobo. It was just a funny coincidence.
It's like a little furry riding in a mech.
It's not a furry. It is an anthropomorphic dog, and they're in mechs.
Yes.
No, and it's a really good game. Thank you.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're big wrong.
Yeah, big. Anyway, so
I'm gonna Google a picture of this.
Oh no!
Like,
if only you could Google a picture of the nerd.
Yeah.
There's anthropomorphic animals, but there's also like a particular kind of cartoon anthropomorphic animal,
Come on.
which I think is fair to call furry.
So anyway, should we reveal the name of Power Nerd, our name for him, or would that give it away?
No.
I don't think it would give it away. I mean,
because if we reference him in the future, like I feel like we should establish our version of his identity.
Yeah, that's fine.
The man we know as Goggles.
Because he had this pair of glasses that was more reminiscent of a pair of goggles.
Yeah.
And so he became known as
Yeah, I
Goggles.
got that.
To this
from
day,
Goggles.
I actually can't remember what his real name is anyway, so it's fine. Poor man.
But it looks like the Japanese art is ambiguous in these terms, but the American art, Solatorobo, Red the Hunter.
Yeah, a great game.
That's a furry. Like that is like that's like appealing to a furry market.
That's what you said about Star Fox and every member of Star Fox.
Yeah, you can't be trusted.
Yeah, no.
Too much hate.
Get out of here.
Terrible.
Well, it's a good place to end it, as any. Thank you for joining our continued adventures in gaming.
Misadventures with this guy around.
Yeah.
Of trombone.
I'm moving on.
Did you get that guy? That was a video game
Yes,
reference.
I got the
I made a
reference.
reference to a video. Okay.
I made sure to download Mega Man Legends 2 the other day because I realized I had 1 and I had trombone. I did not have 2. And I'm like, so as soon as I decide to go buy it, that's when they'll delist it. So I made sure to get it right away. So I'm happily have all 3 at least in digital version.
Which of them have you finished?
I haven't finished any yet.
Yeah, well, this is the opposite of gaming on a budget. You gotta
All
save
right.
this for a different podcast.
It's like
All right.
$8 a pop. Thanks.
We are done. Thank you. See you next time. Cheers.